Hello and welcome to the Schola Progenium. Today we have another battle report here for you. This time, the Blood Angels, another new list, just experimenting with different things at the moment. It's in each bat rep. Just trying different things out. Win or lose, it doesn't matter, just getting those tactics on display and letting you guys see a few different units in action. So this time I'm going for a heavy support attachment with lots of autocannons. Now, unfortunately, I've gone for Strength 7 autocannons, and Sam has decided to take a Valiant in a soup list. So he's got Mechanicus, Deathwatch and Knights in a soup list versus pure Blood Angels. So that could be a little tricky, but I do have, good old Baron Harkonnen and Mephiston ready to beat the crap out of this guy if I need to. So, it could be an interesting game, and these guys are putting down a lot of fire, even if they are wounding on 5. So we'll see what we can do. Let's get into the list in a bit more detail. So first of all, with the Blood Angels, we have Mephiston. He's going to take the Wings of Sanguinius and the 2 combat +1 attacks and plus D3 attacks, +3 to charge and advance psychic powers. Then I've got Captain there and a Lieutenant there. They've both just got power swords and bolt pistols. I've then got the Baron Harkonnen. He's got Storm Shield, Thunderhammer and Jetpack. I've spent a command point on him to give him the Black Rage. And here's my Warlords. That's a 5-up, Feel No Pain, and +1 attack on the charge. Then we have just a Bare Bones Chaplain there with bolt pistol, and a Sanguinary Ancient with fist and just the Sanguinary Bolter and Carmine Bolter. Moving on to the more assault elements, we have 5 Terminators with Thunderhammers and Storm Shields, and then we have 3 units of 5 Barebone Tack Marines. Moving on to the fire support, we have another elite choice, which is a Dreadnought, and he's a nice cheap way of having more lascans and missiles on the battlefield, and he's going with these guys, which is 4 Predators, 3 with autocannons and double heavy bolters, and 1 with last cannon and double heavy bolters. So there's a lot of fire support there, but not optimal strength to take on these guys, but can put a lot of damage into Sam's other units. So we'll look at the Deathwatch in a bit more detail. Oh, and of course, no army would be complete of Blood Angels without a big unit of Death Company. So I have 12 there with 2 Thunderhammers and 4 Power Swords. So they can be deep striking in and cutting stuff up. So I've got my rerolls, I've got lots of Daka, I've got a decent amount of close combat. Should be a nicely balanced list. We'll see if we can beat the soup. The darned Imperial soup returns. So looking at the soup list in a bit more detail, we have a battalion, Outrider detachment, which is the fast attack one, and then of course a Knight. So the Knight's not bringing any command points, and he's actually soaking up 2 before the game starts, because Sam's giving him the Warlord trait of the 4-up Iron Shields and the big old Flamer there to start burning stuff away with the reroll wounds. So in total, Sam would have 8, 9, but he's used 2, so he's down to 7 before we start. And just to do the Blood Angels, we have a elite detachment, heavy support detachment, and a battalion. So we'd be starting with 8, 9, 10. Yep. But we're spending 1 on our captain to go down to 9. So it's 9, 7 when the game begins. So a bit more detail. He's got 3 units of 3 bikes. One's got an axe on the sergeant and 2 mauls. Then we've got 2 units of 3 with power swords. We then have a unit of Deathwatch veterans with 4 frag cannons. The sergeant has a Xenophase blade, and then we've got 3 more guys with bolters. And then we have a Terminator with Storm Shield and Thunderhammer, a normal Terminator, and then another Vanguard veteran with Storm Shield and Power Sword. So he'll let them pull out and shoot if they do get engaged in combat. Moving on to the Mechanicus, we have 3 units of infantry. We have a unit of Rangers with 2 of the arc rifles. We have a unit of 5 Rangers with 2 of the sniper rifles. We have a unit of 8 or 7 Vanguard with 3 plasma.
Just 2.
2 plasma. 7 Vanguard, 2 plasma. Then we have an Engine Seer and a Tech Priest.
Yep. Dominus.
Tech Priest Dominus. And then we have 5 of the Skitarii Rust Stalkers. They've got the cord claws and the whips and the razor claws or whatever. Yeah, they chop stuff up. Then we have this guy. He's got the heavy neutron laser blaster space destructor weapon, which kills loads of stuff. And then we have, of course, a Guardian. What's he called again?
Him?
Yeah.
One of the... No, he's not. He's a Dragoon.
Dragoon, the Dragoon with the lance and the fancy flare pistol. That makes, I don't know.
No flare pistol this time.
No flare pistol, so bare bones. So all in all, you know, we've got a nice little resilient unit there, tougher than they look. We've got the big old knight stacked to the gills with equipment. He's got 2 missiles and 2 missiles and 2 cannons, so he's WYSIWYG. Oh, and then finally we have 2 characters over here. We have a Watchmaster, who is the warlord of the entire army, and a captain with just Thunderhammer and Jetpack. And what's that?
Forge World is Goriah for them.
And Forge World Goriah for these guys. Does that give you 6 of Feel No Pain?
Yeah.
And he's Hawk Shroud, so he's always counted as double wounds. It may seem counter-intuitive, but he likes this model, so he went for this guy. And obviously he's about 200 points cheaper than the other one, the other big knight. So although he is tied in with Mechanicus, he hasn't gone for the one with Cole's Wrath, but should make it more of a survivable game for me. I would just lose this game flat out if that was the case, so I'm glad. The Deathwatch are really expensive, so you really couldn't afford the Deathwatch in there with that guy. They're the most expensive detachment overall. Right, so it's a big old game of 40k, 2 big old armies ready to take chunks out of each other. So let's see what happens after deployment. So here we have the field of battle after deployment. We've got 5 objectives and we're playing table quarters. And Sam's really got the upper hand before we get started. So he's got 1 objective here, and he's got 1 objective here, and he's got 1 objective here, all in his table quarter. I only have 1 in my table quarter, and there's 1 over here in no man's land. So that's mine. So I'm struggling for really terrain that's usable in the way I want. But I've got 3 units of 5 Tat Marines just deployed on this flank here. Hopefully, decent distance from the knight. I can actually destroy them all before I can do what I want. And then I've got the heavy support back here with the captain and the lieutenant giving me rerolls to everyone. I've also got the dreadnought in there. I also have Mephi and the captain just hidden in this building, ready to counter assault if the knight gets too close. So over on the other side of the board we have, of course, the Valiant Knight with his Thunder Coil Harpoon and the Flamer, which is a relic. Then we have 2 units of Rangers with the Arc Rifles and the Sniper Rifles. We've got some heavy support with the Doom Coiler there. We've got the 2 characters in the back there as well. And then in a separate section we've got the Vanguard there with all the bikers, the Rust Stalkers and the June Strider, whatever this guy's called. So a big lump of stuff coming towards me there. Decent fire support in the back, and this guy is going to kick ass. Just fix him. There we go. So it's going to be a tough game for me with them starting off with the advantage in terms of objectives. Apart from that, it's just First Strike, Warlord and Linebreaker. Whoever has the most objectives at the end of the game will be declared the victor. Will it be the Blood Angels or will it be the accursed Soup? Oh, and just to mention, Sam also spent 2 extra command points to put a unit of Deathwatch and a Watchmaster in a teleportarium. So he is on 5 command points to my 9. So that should give me a little bit of an advantage. Now Sam won the roll off and I failed to steal initiative. So I'll be with you after Soup turn 1. So at the end of Imperial Soup first turn, the Valiant strode forwards 10 inches and everything else burst from cover as well, which surprised me. I wasn't expecting Sam to do that. We had to do that to get within range of these Predators with these guys because I was more than 30 inches away, so he couldn't use his Kraken bolts. He ended up doing no wounds apart from 1 wound to the Dreadnought he gave up on the Predators. Fired a couple of squads of the Dreadnought and got 1 wound. The valiantly flamethrowed one of these squads, and the cannons he targeted the same squads. Well, he wasn't trusting the flamethrower to wipe them out, and he wanted first blood or first strike, so he got that. So that's a point in the bag. The Valiant killed a unit. The only other thing of note was that this guy got 3. Sam spent a command point to hit on 2s, plus 2 ballistic skill, and he shot over here and put 10 wounds on this guy. So one of my predators is on 1 wound, but luckily didn't actually die. And these guys broke from cover from here to try and take this objective, which was the objective I was sending my tank marines towards. There's going to be a clash of obsec on this objective. So now we'll get on to Blood Angels. Turn 1, I'm happy to have all my vehicles still on the board. So Blood Angels got off to a reasonable turn 1. We started off by just moving these guys forward 6 inches, so they were in shooting range of these guys over here. And you know, probably out of range of him as he strides towards my main gun line. Then I started pouring out shots. So first of all, I fired the Dreadnought, and he fired both his last cannons and his missile at the Knight. Now the Knight, he got wounds with everything, and unfortunately though, it amounted, because of saves, to 6 wounds on the Knight, but that was pretty good. I was happy with that from the Dreadnought, a really good start. Then I fired this guy, his last cannons at the Knight, and his heavy bolters at a squad of bikes. The last cannons were both wounded, both hit, both wounded, with the help of the captain and the lieutenant, but the Knight made both his 4-up invuln saves. I thought, uh-oh, I hate it when that happens, you know, when those 4-up invuns from that Warlord trait start coming into play early on. Then I fired this autocannon, Predator autocannon, 48 inches over to here, and although I got 3 wounds through, Sam had a 3-up cover save, so he managed to survive all 3, past all 3. So I thought, right, I'm just going to put as much fire as I can into the Knights. So I continued to fire heavy bolter shots from these guys, and once all 3 predators of the first 3 predators that were all firing on full ballistic skill, this guy obviously was on his last bracket because he's only on 1 wound. But these guys, they each killed a bike, so I got first strike for killing off a squad of bikes. They each did 2 wounds with the heavy bolters. I also managed to get a Predator autocannon wound through with each of these guys, even though that guy was hitting on 5, so they got 5 shots each. They both hit with 3, and they both wounded with 2, and they both got, Sam failed 1 of those each, so it's perfectly statistical, apart from I got a little lucky because I was getting 5 shots with each, but eventually the Knight was taken to only 12 wounds. So 12 wounds on the Knight, and the unit of bikes dead. That's not bad, but now the Deathwatch have some reinforcements coming in. So the Knight's army, he's 23 inches away, so he can't harpoon one of my Predators yet, but he will be able to start doing some damage with that flamer on my tanks and swarming forward with those and pouring in for heavy support with these guys. So the reserves for the Deathwatch in turn 2 dropped in here audaciously in front of the Predator line. They fired off at range 12, which means they're AP -3, strength 9, and 8 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling all hits, and rerolling 1s to wound because he's elite and that's their chosen sort of trait, is to reroll 1s against to wound against elites. He only managed to do 2 wounds to the Dreadnought after all of that. This guy moved forward, and this guy moved forward, and then the bikes actually, after taking heavy losses against heavy bolters, they moved round here to harass and kill off these Blood Angels, supporting these guys, stopping me getting objectives. So Sam, he wants all the objectives, he wants all 5 objectives, being greedy. So this guy then flamed in to a Predator with last cannons. It was out of harpoon range, but he got the flamer in, and he managed to get 10 wounds on me, so I had 1 left. And he finished that off with a blast from this guy, killing him. The snipers then fired into the Predator that was here with the autocannon that was on 1 wound. They managed to kill him off as well. So I've only got 2 Predators left, so it's a couple of heavy blows there against the Blood Angels. But the Deathwatch, they are a little exposed, and I have some reinforcements coming as well now. But they are holding 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives currently, although it doesn't matter until the last dice has been rolled. So let's see what happens in Blood Angels turn 2. So in my first turn, Mephi cast 1 and 1 power only, and that was wings, and I didn't use it to fly forward, but I wanted him to be able to keep it with the captain in this turn, because it lasts until the next psychic phase. So, in my second turn, I jumped forward 12 inches to around here, but I ignored the Death Company. And then in my psychic phase, I didn't bother with Smite, even though I could have got a flat 3 on the Knight, Instead, I gave the captain extra attack. I fluffed giving himself extra attacks, but I wings forward again, so he was right in the knight's face. He was only 8 inches away as it was, but I got right in his face. Then I did a bit of shooting. Now, these guys managed to put 5 wounds on the little walker thing. That was Mechanicus walker, chicken legs, and then they managed to kill the 2 standard bolter marines from here. Then these guys, the captain fired off at the walker, but it didn't. He did fail to wound, and then the lieutenant fired off. He got a wound through. Sam failed his save, and it died. The captain did actually get a wound through, but Sam made a save. So 2 guys killed from the Deathwatch, the basic guys, and the knight. These guys were right up. Well, the captain was an 8-inch charge away, and Mephi was right in his face. I also dropped my Termies in here with this guy in here in the hope of getting one of the units in on a charge, even with a command point, but neither of them rolled well enough to warrant risking a command point to get them in. So these guys had to do it without the rerolls, or without the rerolls to wound at least, and without the extra hammers. So then I used 3d6 on this guy to just make sure he got in, because he couldn't be overwatched, and I really didn't want Mephi eating that Traitor's Pyre Flamestorm cannon going in first. So he made it in, rolled like 15 inches, so he made it into the knight, and then this guy, Mephi, and he did only 3 wounds to the knight, even with 6 attacks, an extra attack for the Death Company, an extra attack because Mephi gave it to him, and 4 attacks basic. But then Mephi came in, and he managed to put 3 wounds through. Sam failed all 3 6-up saves, and the knight rolled 3 5s and 6s. The knight took 9 wounds. He'd already taken a little bit more from elsewhere, as I've described, and the knight exploded, doing a wound, mortal wound to the bolter Termi, Storm bolter Termi there, and that was that. So, oh sorry, it was actually the knight had also taken a mortal wound when the walker was killed, because he exploded when the lieutenant shot him. So what a shot! So overall, although the Deathwatch and Soup are still holding the majority of the objectives with 1, 2, 3, 4, their units are scattered. It will be hard to attack these 2 objectives with the Vanguard there and the Skitarii Rustalkers there. So the Mechanicus Soup are doing really well, but the initial assault has been blunted and taken care of by the Red Baron and Mephisto. So the Deathwatch veterans' advance continued with the Watchmaster. They pushed forward, they fired a load of frag cannons at strength 9 AP -3 into this guy and did 8 wounds to him. The Daka and everything else went onto the captain but failed to do any wounds, and the Watchmaster fired into the Dread and managed to put him to only 2 wounds remaining. Then all the Daka from these guys, Stubbers over here, snipers, all of these guys, everything fired into the captain, but he only took 3 wounds. Amazing from the Baron Harkonnen. Mephi just took nothing in the meanwhile. These guys put some pot shots over onto the attack marines, but failed to do anything. That's a squad of 4 and a squad of 1 there. But then the Watchmaster charged in with these guys. The Dread actually managed to put 4 wounds on him with a last cannon and Overwatch. So again, another blow in luck to the Deathwatch in their own turn. But in return, he just destroyed that Dreadnought, and he didn't explode. And they moved on and consolidated 3 inches, pushing forward into the last of the Blood Angels' back lines. So overall, you know, not a great turn. Let's see what the Blood Angels can do to retaliate. They still have the Death Company to come in. So in the 3rd turn for the Blood Angels, they've had a very effective turn. So first of all, the Smash Captain pulled back from the centre here after dealing with the Knight to charge into the Deathwatch, because he could ignore that frag cannon auto hits, which would be the death of most things that try and charge that squad. The Termies were around here, and they just moved 5 inches through the building to the edge of the building there, so they're about a 5-inch charge away, so an easy charge. These guys, the 2 characters, they also moved round the corner of the wall, and the Sanguinary Ancient moved from there just into an auto charge range. Mephiston on his own moved forward to engage the 6 bikes, and the Death Company deep struck in 9 inches with Lamarty, not Lamarty, with the captain, chaplain behind the lines towards the Scutari, holding these 2 objectives. So we've still got a decent fire base here, but I thought I'll go for the Scutari Rust Stalkers because they'll counter assault me and tear my Death Company apart more effectively than the shooting over here. So then in the psychic phase, Mephiston got an 11 on his smite. He failed all his other powers, but he got an 11 on his smite and killed off a unit of bikes. We killed 2 and got 1 down to 1 wounded, then fired his plasma pistol in the shooting phase and killed it off. These guys all threw like crack grenades and that, but failed to do any damage. And this guy fired his last few shots, hitting on 5s and that kind of thing, over, I think, where did he fire even? I think it was over into this guy, but he failed to do anything. Then we charged in, and of course these guys just got torn apart, with the captain piling in to the Watchmaster and finishing him in single combat, just tearing him apart. The Mephiston fluffed his attacks and only managed to kill 1 bike and put 1 on 1 wound, but the Death Company then rallied, and they managed to do a multi-charge and missed out with 2 guys fighting one there to be a 2-inch barrier between these 2, and then 1 guy over there staying within 6 inches of the chaplain, but then essentially they tore all the Rust Stalkers apart with the power weapons and thunderhammers, and then they tore 3 of these guys apart. They fluffed their chainsaw attacks, so there's 3 of those guys left. 1 got a 1 with his plasma in Overwatch overcharging, and he killed himself. So the Scutari are left with this little firebase here, but the Death Company have essentially taken 2 objectives over here, and the back line objective is secured for the Blood Angels. So the tables have turned. This little firefight continues to be ongoing. Oh yeah, that was what happened. He fired some heavy bolters across, managed to kill 2 of these guys, but then the Attack Marines did nothing. So it's 5 versus 5 in the little firefight over this objective. So it's Scutari, Soup, Deathwatch Soup, turn 5. Or just Scutari and a couple of Deathwatch bikers, and it's turn 4 for you guys now. So Mechanicus turn 4 started off with the bikers pulling out from Mephiston, preparing to charge back in again if he could get shot at. However, these guys fired, and they poured fire into the Death Company and managed to kill off 4 guys with chainswords. There's just 2 there, and then 2 Thunderhammers, 4 power swords there. And he's got 3 Scutari that were in combat who survived the initial charge, pulled up, ready to do OBSEC on that objective. So he's holding 1 objective, 2 objectives potentially if I move off from there. But all in all, it's looking really good for the Blood Angels. They pulled out with the bikes, and then when he charged back in, he actually hit with his plasma pistol. Mephiston did. He got a 6 and killed off the biker who was on 1 wound. And then the biker failed to do any wounds to Mephiston, and in return Mephiston struck back and just murdered the biker. Did like 9 wounds to him or something crazy. So all in all, over here, one final thing. These guys started popping some shots. These guys, the art rifles were in rapid fire now, so the Rangers were able to pour fire onto here and kill off 2 of the Attack Marines. So there's only 2 Attack Marines in that squad and 1 Attack Marine in that squad. But all in all, there's about 600 to 700 points with the Scutari left on the field. And the Blood Angels, although they're not securing all of the objectives at the moment, they are in a pretty good position. And Mephiston is still alive. So let's see what they can do in their turn 4. So in the Blood Angels turn 4, the Death Company advanced up to just outside the walls of that building, near coming onto the Scutari final last stand. The Blood Angels over there, the Tactical Marines, who up to this point had been trading shots with these guys, decided it was time to take on the Rangers in close combat, and then everyone else over here just advanced and forward, and everyone got a 5 on their advance. Both characters and the Termies got a 5 on their advance. The Termies moved 10, and those guys moved 17 inches, so they're moving up on the last 3 Scutari in that building on that objective. Then the Chaplain just moved forward to here so he could give buffs to the Death Company, and Mephiston wings over to here. Well, he was just here, and he also got an extra attack for himself, and also cast an extra attack on the Death Company. Then the Death Company charged in, and we fired a couple of shots off here and there, killed one of these Rangers, and with help from the last remaining Predator, who was only hitting on 5s, but we managed to kill off a couple more of these Qatari. Then we charged in, killed the unit down to 1 guy, and he actually did manage to kill 1 tactical marine back in close combat, but it's 2-on-1 near that objective, about 5 inches away from that objective. Then these guys, the Death Company, they all struck, and I only took the Thunderhammers with those extra attacks. 2 Thunderhammers, 3 attacks normally on the charge, went up to 4, and they just smashed apart those 2 guys on their own, smashed apart the Dune Crawler, which allowed 2 power swords of the 4 remaining to hit the leader of the Mechanicus with 3 chainsword guys, and that got him down to a couple of wounds from a fist and just finished him off. Got another like 9 wounds on him, just absolutely tearing everything apart that he touches. The Chaplain failed to get a charge in, but he's just giving those rerolls all along with all the other units. So that basically wiped the Mechanicus down to 4 Rangers here with 2 sniper rifles, and a Ranger over here with an arc rifle, and 2 more of their troops. I can't remember what they're called, but they're on that objective there, or within range of that objective, they're not actually on it. So Sam's actually decided to call it there at the end of turn 4, because he's got about, less than 100 points on the battlefield. He's got under 10 infantry on the battlefield. He's got 6 infantry remaining, 6-7 infantry remaining. The Blood Angels have all these Death Company. They've got the Fiston, and they've got the Captain over here. They've got the Termes, Sanguinary Ancient, and they still have 1 Predator remaining with 2 characters on that objective. So it ends up with the Blood Angels with 1, 2, 3 points. They probably would have got that, but we'll just leave it at that. They will have got this one, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, they will have just... Sam's conceded, so that's it. Doesn't matter about the points. They probably would have tabled them in the next turn. So that's that, and a victory for the Blood Angels. All hail Baron Harkonnen. So man of the match had to be Baron Harkonnen. He's just been running around all day, smashing stuff up. Death Company obviously came in though with an honourable mention, because they turned the game inevitably to unavoidably being a Blood Angel victory. So this has been the Schola Progenium. I hope you've enjoyed this battle report. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.